In the United Kingdom, counter-terrorism does not begin with arrests. It does not begin with armed police. And it does not begin with intelligence raids. It begins much earlier. It begins in classrooms, in GP surgeries, in universities, in local councils, in safeguarding meetings, and sometimes in a quiet conversation between a teacher and a student. This is the PREVENT strategy, one of the most controversial, most debated, and most misunderstood elements of the UK's national security system. Some people see PREVENT as a vital early warning system that saves lives. Others see it as intrusive, overreaching, or politically sensitive. But very few people truly understand how it actually works. Tonight, we are going inside the full architecture, from legal foundation, to referral process, to intelligence assessment, to intervention programs, to oversight and reform. We are going step by step, and by the end of this documentary, you will understand not only what PREVENT is, but how radicalisation is identified, how risk is assessed, how individuals are supported, and how the system decides when someone moves from vulnerability to threat. To understand PREVENT, we must go back to 2005. July 7th, 4 coordinated suicide bombings on London's transport system. 52 people killed, over 700 injured. It was a turning point. The attackers were not foreign infiltrators. They were British citizens, radicalised inside the UK. This forced a fundamental shift in national security thinking. The question was no longer just, how do we stop terrorists? The question became, how do we stop people from becoming terrorists in the first place? That is where PREVENT was born. PREVENT became one of the 4 pillars of the UK's contest counter-terrorism strategy. The 4 pillars are pursue, stopping terrorist attacks; protect, strengthening protection against attacks; prepare, mitigating impact if an attack happens; and prevent, stopping people from becoming terrorists or supporting terrorism. PREVENT is pre-criminal. That distinction is crucial. It operates before an offence is committed. It focuses on vulnerability, not punishment. And legally, that places it in the safeguarding framework, not the criminal justice framework. PREVENT was first launched in 2007, but it evolved significantly over time, especially after the Counter-Terrorism and Security Act 2015. That act introduced something critical, the PREVENT duty. This placed a legal obligation on certain public bodies to have due regard to the need to prevent people from being drawn into terrorism. That includes schools, universities, local authorities, NHS trusts, prisons, police forces, and other specified bodies. This does not mean teachers become spies. It does not mean doctors become intelligence officers. It means they must consider radicalisation as part of safeguarding responsibilities, just like child exploitation, just like gang grooming, just like domestic abuse. Radicalisation is treated as another form of vulnerability. So what is radicalisation? Radicalisation is the process by which an individual comes to support terrorism or extremist ideology associated with terrorist groups. It is a process, not an event. It can be gradual or rapid. It can occur online, offline, through personal networks, through ideological propaganda, through grievance narratives, through identity crises, through trauma, through manipulation. There is no single profile, no single religion, no single political ideology. In recent years, referrals have included concerns relating to Islamist extremism, far-right extremism, mixed or unstable ideologies, single-issue extremism, and online conspiracy-driven narratives. The threat picture evolves, and PREVENT evolves with it. Now let's move into how the system actually works. Imagine a scenario. A secondary school teacher notices a change in a student's behaviour. The student begins expressing support for violent extremist content online. They share propaganda videos, they justify attacks, they withdraw socially, they become increasingly hostile toward perceived enemies. The teacher does not arrest the student. The teacher does not interrogate the student. Instead, the teacher follows safeguarding protocol. They raise a concern internally. The concern is reviewed by the school's designated safeguarding lead. The question at this stage is simple. Is this a safeguarding issue? Could this young person be vulnerable to radicalisation? If the concern meets threshold, a PREVENT referral may be made. Here is where precision matters. A prevent referral is not a criminal accusation. It is a safeguarding referral, similar to referring a child at risk of exploitation. The referral typically goes to the local authorities' prevent team and is shared with counter-terrorism policing for assessment. Now the assessment process begins. This is structured, multi-agency, evidence-based, and recorded. At this stage, counter-terrorism policing conducts initial screening. They check intelligence databases. They assess whether the individual is already known. They determine whether there is immediate security risk. In many cases, there is not. The majority of referrals do not become criminal investigations. Instead, they move to what is called Channel. Channel is a voluntary, confidential, multi-agency support program. It is designed for individuals who are vulnerable to being drawn into terrorism, not those who have committed terrorist offences. That distinction is essential. Channel panels are chaired by the local authority. They include representatives from education, social services, mental health services, youth offending teams, housing, and police. This is not an intelligence interrogation room. It is a safeguarding case conference. They assess risk using structured vulnerability assessment frameworks. They look at factors such as engagement with extremist ideology, intent to cause harm, capability to act, personal vulnerabilities, social isolation, mental health concerns, family context, online behaviour patterns, peer networks. The goal is not to label, it is to understand. If the panel determines the individual is vulnerable, they may offer tailored intervention. This could include mentoring support, theological or ideological mentoring, psychological counselling, educational assistance, employment support, family support, online safety guidance. Intervention providers are carefully vetted specialists, sometimes former extremists, sometimes academic experts, sometimes trained mentors. Participation is voluntary. If the individual refuses, they cannot be forced into Channel unless separate legal grounds exist. At this point, critics often raise a question. Does prevent criminalise thought? The official position is clear. It does not target ideology alone. It targets risk of being drawn into terrorism. Holding controversial opinions is not a prevent threshold. Supporting or preparing for terrorist violence is. The distinction is subtle, but legally significant. Now, let's address numbers. Each year, thousands of prevent referrals are made across the UK, but only a fraction proceed to Channel, and an even smaller fraction relate to immediate terrorism risk. Many referrals involve safeguarding issues unrelated to terrorism once assessed. Some involve mental health crises, some involve online grooming vulnerability. The process acts as a filtering mechanism, not a mass prosecution tool. However, Prevent has faced serious criticism. Civil liberties groups have argued that it disproportionately affects certain communities. Some teachers have expressed fear of over-referral. Universities have raised concerns about academic freedom. Muslim advocacy groups have questioned community trust impacts. In response, the UK government commissioned independent reviews. Policies were revised, training was updated, guidance was clarified. The 2023 Independent Review of Prevent examined operational effectiveness, ideological scope, and training quality. Reforms were implemented to sharpen focus on actual terrorism risk and reduce bureaucratic overreach. Prevent is not static, it evolves under scrutiny. Now let's go deeper. What actually triggers a referral threshold? This is where nuance matters. Indicators might include expressing desire to commit violent acts, researching attack methodologies, attempting to contact prescribed organisations, sharing operational propaganda, sudden behavioural shifts aligned with extremist narratives, fixation on grievance combined with dehumanisation rhetoric. But context is always assessed. A student researching terrorism for a history project is not a prevent case. Intent and vulnerability must be evaluated together. Another key dimension is online radicalisation. In recent years, digital ecosystems have transformed the landscape. Algorithmic amplification, encrypted platforms, gaming chat environments, short-form propaganda clips, meme-based extremism. Prevent training increasingly includes digital literacy awareness. Teachers and safeguarding leads are trained to understand modern online influence pathways. Radicalisation today often happens in private digital spaces, not public rallies. That changes detection dynamics significantly. Let's pause here. So far, we've covered the origin of PREVENT, its legal framework, the PREVENT duty, the referral process, the channel program, vulnerability assessment, criticism and reform, and digital radicalisation context. But we have only just begun. In the next section, we will go inside how intelligence boundaries are maintained, how data is stored and shared, what oversight mechanisms exist, how PREVENT intersects with MI5 and counter-terror policing, case study walkthroughs, and how someone transitions from PREVENT safeguarding to full counter-terror investigation. Because that threshold is where prevention ends and pursuit begins. When people hear counter-terrorism, they imagine MI5 surveillance, armed police, arrests. But PREVENT operates before that threshold. It sits in safeguarding space, not criminal investigation. Still, it does not exist in isolation. There are strict boundaries between PREVENT and intelligence operations. Understanding those boundaries is critical. When a PREVENT referral is made, counter-terrorism policing conducts initial screening. They check intelligence systems. They assess whether there is immediate threat. Most cases do not meet investigation thresholds. If there is credible attack planning, the case transfers to a full counter-terror investigation. That is pursue. But if the issue is vulnerability without operational intent, it remains within PREVENT. That separation is deliberate. MI5 focuses on national security threats. They do not run channel panels. They do not provide mentoring. However, intelligence may inform risk assessments where necessary. All information sharing is governed by law. Data protection rules apply. Human rights obligations apply. Necessity and proportionality apply. PREVENT operates within legal oversight frameworks. It is scrutinized, not secret. Now let's examine channel more precisely. Channel panels assess risk across 3 dimensions: engagement, intent, capability. Engagement means interaction with extremist ideology. Intent means willingness to cause harm. Capability means ability or preparation to act. Belief alone is not the threshold. Trajectory is. Consider a case. A 17-year-old becomes deeply immersed in extremist forums, shares propaganda, expresses admiration for attackers, but shows no signs of attack planning. A referral is made. Police checks show no operational activity. Channel assesses vulnerability, social isolation, mental health strain, online radicalisation exposure. The intervention includes mentoring, mental health support, family guidance. 6 months later, hostility decreases, online behaviour stabilises, case closes, no criminal record, risk reduced. That is PREVENT functioning as designed. Now contrast that with mobilisation, an adult researching bomb-making manuals, attempting overseas contact, acquiring materials, expressing intent to attack. That case moves immediately out of PREVENT into full counter-terror investigation, arrest powers, search warrants, security service involvement. PREVENT is pre-criminal. Once mobilisation begins, the response escalates. Education plays a major role in PREVENT. Schools and universities have a legal duty to assess radicalisation risk. That includes staff training, safeguarding pathways, speaker vetting, and IT policies. But freedom of expression remains protected. Debate is lawful. Incitement to violence is not. Balancing those principles requires precision. Healthcare also intersects with PREVENT. Clinicians may identify patients expressing violent extremist intent. Public protection responsibilities apply. Referrals are rare but possible. Again, the framework is safeguarding-based, not intelligence-led. Prisons are another environment of concern. Some inmates are already radicalised. Others become vulnerable inside. Specialist programs aim at disengagement. PREVENT principles operate alongside custodial security measures. Rehabilitation remains the objective. Referral trends evolve. In recent years, far-right referrals have increased. Mixed and unstable ideologies are more common. Online self-radicalisation has accelerated. Younger individuals appear more frequently in referral data. Digital ecosystems have transformed exposure pathways. Prevent training now reflects that shift. Criticism remains part of the prevent landscape. Concerns include over-referral, community trust and civil liberties. Independent reviews have led to reforms. Training has been tightened. Ideological focus clarified. Prevent continues to evolve under scrutiny. The core question remains, does it work? Prevention is difficult to measure. Success is often invisible. But structured interventions, reduced engagement indicators, and diversion from criminal pathways suggest measurable impact in many cases. No system is perfect, but the architecture is designed for early disruption. Before violence, before mobilisation, before tragedy. We now understand the structural boundary where safeguarding ends and investigation begins.